And then while we're on the thing of Kier, he met with Idris Elba this week as well. Or that was at the back of last week for some knife crime intervention. Like Idris Elba's got some. Well, that's what I thought, but apparently Hezbollah is what they were saying.
They're trying to say, well, it's only them that had it. Do you know what I mean? In their hand at that time. But like, how do we know that that isn't something that is like automatically put in our devices? You know what I mean? And
but sounded an alarm about cladding fires in 1992. So this 25 years ago they were warned about this. And it's just maximum profit that they want. Do you know what I mean? So they're not looking at how safe these buildings are. Welcome.
This is the PS postscript to My Time to Talk, where we're going to explore other topics that may have passed you in the, regional news or even national news
that we may have missed in the week.
We may never have covered it, or we've covered it very slightly. Briefly, and we're both going to try and
dive a little
deeper. So we're going to start with
the Grenfell Inquiry.
So
it finally came to an end. So from, I think it was 2017 they started it, and they finally released the findings of the inquiry. Do you want to just pull up that link so we could just get some stats? So I think they said it was 72. I never actually believed the amount of people that they said died in the
but they're still not really talking about compensation.
That's it.
Prosecution.
That's what I was thinking.
And nobody's taking account of that. There is other blocks of flats
that have the same cladding on
in that
still.
problem.
Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know about the Grenfell fire, I don't know, we do have some viewers that aren't in England. So the Grenfell fire, basically it was a tower block that's in a very affluent area in London, and anybody that knows London and even Birmingham, this is kind of just an epitome of how we are built up, basically. So you'll have very rich neighbourhoods next to very poor neighbourhoods, so in order to make the rich neighbourhood look more pleasing to the eye, because it had these social housing, they've put cladding on the buildings, and they know that these claddings were flammable and not safe to be put on buildings. So when a fire broke out on the 4th floor, the whole thing went up and people couldn't get out. So this inquiry now is found, obviously we did know it, originally they said that 72 people died. I do believe that the number is higher, because we know that there were probably people maybe staying there that aren't listed on the thing, and I feel like that was a way that they kind of got away with bringing the total number of casualties down, because they just wouldn't say if they found extra people if they weren't a tenant.
And the worst about it is that it was palmed off as like, oh, somebody's washing machine went haywire and blew up and that started the fire. It's like, really? Do you know what I mean? Like how things are built these days. Not saying that, it's impossible, but the whole tower went up. Do you know what I mean? And you took the best part of 5-6 years to actually come into some investigation without prosecutions attached to it, without who's going to pay compensation to these people. Do you know what I mean? And is it because the people are majority Asian or
Black,
of different descent, apart from there was.
And I think there was a lot
British
of racism
people in
that
there,
we saw,
but a lot of racism.
Because people didn't even want them to be put up in certain places, because they were like, oh well, why should they get? And then you could see the racism that these people experience through and through and through, and they're still not whole. So the inquiry has shown that the report by Sir Martin Moore Bick A retired High Court judge says experts sounded an alarm about cladding fires in 1992. So this 25 years ago they were warned about this. After an 11-storey Knowsley Heights tower caught alight
but apparently the people in the
7 years later,
used to be complaining as well.
7 years later, another fire at Garnet Court in Irvine, and a committee of MP raised their concerns there, but the flammable cladding still wasn't removed. Do you know what I mean? And it still hasn't been banned. This is the thing, like there's still
buildings
with this cladding
in London
on,
with
the
cladding,
I mean?
Or there's still buildings that's got a negative equity in their bought apartments, bought flats, you know, that they've got a negative equity now, so they can't sell their flats and nobody wants to buy it. And they're saying that, well, if you want it to be sorted, you find the money.
But that's it, because that's what they found, that because they're privatising all of these things, like it's just maximum profit that they want. Do you know what I mean? So they're not looking at how safe these buildings are. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, obviously they're saying all of this stuff. The inquiry is there for everybody to peruse and to read now. But as I said, they're still talking about it could still take years to find out who is going to be like criminally held for these
there's so many
negligence. Do you know what I mean?
There's so many inquiries going on at the moment that 25 years and really. Everybody knows it's like the post office scandal. You know, they're waiting for people to die, or people have killed themselves, they've had suicide because they can't get over the trauma of
or the shame, and like their names are never cleared, isn't it?
And their names never cleared, and with the Grenfell, it's what's it? You know, it's the fact that nothing is still being done about other apartments that are up in London, up in Birmingham, anywhere, Manchester, wherever. And we don't even know if apartments aren't being built right now. And they're going to be...
fire risks.
They've still got fire risks, because like, it's not been deemed till today, probably, you know, I mean, till the report came out, that it is a fire risk. It hasn't been, you know, it's just been said now, and this happened in 2017. So how do we know something wasn't built in the meantime?
There's definitely...
Because it's a bit like asbestos. I mean, like, we've got buildings still that's got asbestos in it. And everybody knows what asbestos can do to your health. So, you know, like, and they've never... now you have to actually... take it out yourself. Nobody's got responsibility for that anymore. It's like you bought the building. Do you know what I mean? So it's up to you to take it out if you don't want your health to be affected and other people's health at that. So it's ridiculous. Anything that I hear that's got inquiries attached to its name, you can just say...
I believe it's just another thing of somebody passing the book. Oh, it wasn't me, it was this one. It wasn't me, it was that. Like, you can see it playing out already. Do you know what I mean? So it does nothing to help these people, and obviously the many that died anyway, you know, there's nothing that can bring that back. So, you know,
it's criminal, and it's tragic, you know, it's very tragic.
It is criminal
that they can get away with these things, you know.
Definitely.
I dare say there's people 9/11 right now that probably they've never really found that body because he was a nomad or he was somebody that was living on their own. I mean, we've got incidences of a woman being in a house for 3 years and the telly was still on when they came and found her body, and nobody reported her gone. Nobody reported her
how come the electric
missing.
Wasn't turned off?
Why wasn't? Because as soon as usually
so many questions,
something is turned off. Do you know what I mean? So who's to tell that, it wasn't more than 72 people in the Grenfell. Some of them probably were immigrants from another country, and their family hasn't really got to grips with that. We've never heard from that person ever again.
It's true.
It is a tragedy. It is a tragedy.
So yeah, what else have you got that?
Well, I wanted to actually talk about the fact that I actually think that police people should have a sort of like short life in the police force. I think they become tainted. They start off with, I want to help the people and I want to be there, to help people and all that, and they become jaded. And I actually think that there should be a cut-off date as to being a police officer on the streets, so to speak. If you can't make it to like a chief or something like that, then you should leave the police force and be in security or open your own security thing, like go to the, go to from the chase, stop the rot, because like when you retire you're going to probably go into security anyway. So cut to the chase or cut to the end of it, and say that your career is over after a couple of years, or even if it is 5 years, but let's stop the 25 years. I've done 25 years in the force. No, that shouldn't be the case anymore. Do you know what I mean? Stop the rot at a quicker date, that they don't get tainted, they don't feel like, and I think that should be worldwide.
I think it's because then it's like the hiring rate though, then, isn't it? Because then they're constantly having to find people to employ, and I think that's the reason why they would never do that. Obviously there's that, and the fact that how are they gonna, I think the 5 years is just the right amount of time for them to be conditioned in the types of things that they need them to be, so then they're ripe for corruption, because they've already been groomed throughout that 5 years. So
but then they become one of the lads and one of the boys.
That's what I mean.
And that's when things start going awry. Do you know what I mean? Because like now you can't tell on your friends.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
the whistleblowers.
You can't get any higher in the police force because you're not that good.
Yeah, your job's done. If you're whistleblowing, your job is done in the police force. That's for damn sure. Because they ain't coming to help save you when you press that little button when you've then, when you've been squealing on them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're reporting them, like, I don't think that was right there, Dave. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're saying things like that, and you'll become the thing like, oh, that's the snitch, like we can't trust, you can't say certain things around them. And then when you're needing those people, which you obviously will do as a police person, when you press that button because you need help, they're going to be slow to pick up the call. They'll use it in certain ways. Like if you're going to be the one that's constantly a stickler, like, oh well, the rules, we're not supposed to say that, or we're not supposed to do this. So I think it's all very problematic. Like they need to literally, from the core, from the inside out, that whole system just needs to be
it needs updating,
apart,
and it needs to be,
fucking start
as
again,
I says,
or just don't start.
You need to have a less time that in the police force as a constable or as a lowly, like sergeant or something like that. Something. I actually do think that needs to be looked at big time. And sort it out. You know what I mean?
It is true.
So what was the other one that you wanted?
I can't remember what the hell. Oh yeah, so we had this week the prisoners were released. Open the link. Let's have a look. 40%
if they've done 40%.
So normally it's 50. Yeah, you have to have served 50% of your sentence. So obviously Keir did his little statement the other couple of weeks back talking about how the prisons are overcrowded and blah de blah de blah. So more than 1,700 prisoners were released early in England and Wales as part of a government scheme to ease overcrowding in prison.
Although they're just stuck in something like 800 from the riots.
Yeah.
in prison.
In prison.
So you take out thousands and then you put in thousands.
It's true.
Make it make sense.
And it's not clear what these people's crimes were, but they're saying that they were low-level offenders, which does make you think, because you know that they're putting some of these, especially black kids, in for the most menial of crimes. But then when you've got like the likes of that dude that was let out, we saw the story
within a week.
And within a week,
that he was a sexual abuser, and probably he went in there for GBH or something. Not sexual abuse, you know what I mean? But within a week, he'd sexually abused a woman again, and was back in prison within a week. Do you know what I mean? Some of them have been released and they'd never been out of prison for 5 years, and they couldn't be introduced back into the community in time because, like, I'm in prison today, I'm out. Yeah. Oh, I'm going home today. You know, like, so that meant that no probation to say, like, oh, well, you're going to be living over there now, or you need mental health
going
treatment.
Into hotels, weren't
you know
they?
What I mean?
Apparently they were housing them, like how they're doing with the refugees. They were housing them in hotels and stuff like that.
But some of them didn't know where they were going to go.
Yeah, they've given them just a ticket, not a ticket, like a token to get on the bus with, and whatever little change, and that's it. So aren't you just saying go and reoffend? Because what are these people really going out to? And another thing is that the victims of these crimes, most of them weren't told. You know what I mean? So apparently they were supposed to be given assurances before this happened that all victims would be told, but a lot of them weren't. So they've got no opportunity to, move themselves, or, you know what I mean, change their phone and whatever they need to do, or just even mentally prepare themselves for these people that are going to be released and potentially come in and knocking on their doors. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, another thing that, I don't think they think these things through, or they think them through and they don't give a shit.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? They don't care. It's just, because
it will affect now.
Exactly.
They can say within 3 months we reduced the population of prisoners.
We rehabilitated is what they will say. We've rehabilitated 1,700 prisoners. That's what the stats will be come next year. So yeah, it is just a number crunching thing.
You're not going to tell us how many people went back to prison within the same week. Do you know what I mean? That's
the reoffended.
That's never going to come up into conversation.
Not until they need
again.
It to. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Until probably Conservative wants to get back in, and they'll bring that number up.
And then while we're on the thing of Kier, he met with Idris Elba this week as well.
Did he?
Or that was at the back of last week for some knife crime intervention. Like Idris Elba's got some. Well, that's what I thought. But apparently he's got some charity that he's been doing, like community type work. And this is what I'm saying. Is it just another put a black face to the title of knife crime? Because I know there's many people that are doing the work on knife crime. So I'm hoping that within this little scheme that they're putting together, it's those types of people that they're going to be calling, because they are the ones that are actually doing the groundwork, like the Farrons, like the Respect. There's loads of
people that's not
young
seen.
Men and women, do you know what I mean? Like young mentors and stuff that aren't,
set up boxing clubs.
Yeah, and they're not
like
freaking
that.
funded by governments.
By the government.
Do you know what I mean? They're just going down off their own back and their own bloody morals. And advocating, like, when girls are beat up and stuff like that by a bunch of people, these guys are the ones that are dropping down there to make sure, like, that the school is held accountable. Who can we speak to that's in charge? Like, so I hope that those community groups are going to be included in the conversations, as well as, obviously, because this is what they're saying, they're going to talk to mothers and stuff. But we've heard it and it's been done. Do you know what I mean? With all due respect, like, we had Letitia Shakespeare, the deaths of the thing, like the burgers and the Johnnies, like the gun crime. Like, we've lived through that. So we've heard it all before. We need to be looking at misogyny in schools. Do you know what I mean? We need to be looking at these types of things. Like, if you can teach, I've said it before, but if you can teach sex education, you need to be talking to young men and bringing like-minded young men into school to talk to these boys about how you treat women, how you look at other boys, how you interact with men on a man-to-man basis.
Well, that would have been better
because that is what
if they'd have gone into the prison
that's part of
and
why.
Says if you go on a tour and help these young men in knife crime, you can get out earlier. You know, that will be a qualifying reason why you can come out. You know, so that you can go on a tour of helping young men in schools to know that crime doesn't pay. Stop showing that crime pays. Stop showing that if you buy a knife, and stop showing them on television programs, and I mean it, on dramas and things like that, that somebody's getting knifed up and all that. They are probably sitting in front of a television game thing that is like glorifying it, you know what I mean? That's glorifying that sort of thing. And it's not always like, oh, it's the guys in the gang. You know, it's not always them. You know, like more time, they've actually says that a lot of these ones, they're sitting in their bedroom by themselves thinking like, I'm going to go and buy a knife and then I'm going to go out there and stab somebody, you know, or shoot somebody in America's case, mainly. But even here, do you know what I mean? They're thinking,
and
that is what's good. Stop glorifying
and that's what I'm saying, it's over nonsense. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. If they're given a little bit of like self-respect and self-esteem, I believe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because obviously they're not seeing much going on around their neighbourhood. Like, put some infrastructure in for these kids so that they can actually see a future beyond having to knife up their once friend in order to get a step ahead. Because that's half the time, that's all it is. So like obviously wishing the best, but you know, as
Seeing
I said, kind of
worst a lot of the
seeing
time.
it before, and it just looks a little bit like tokenism again to me, which is what I'm afraid of, and I just don't want Idris to be wrapped up in that stupidness, really.
Yeah, that is not
But yeah, obviously, if you're being paid enough, I don't know if he's being paid or what, but I don't know. As I said,
Well,
anything
he's probably
attached to
doing his
Kier,
best,
I'm very
but really,
sceptical. And
he's out
and
to
you
the
have to work with
He's
the
out to the
government.
loop, you know what I mean?
you have to. I understand you have to work with the government to get
something
changes
at
done.
least.
So yeah, I'm hoping that he is able to do something with it. Then, if that is the case.
And last but definitely not least,
Developing, ongoing story.
the Iranian pager thing. I mean, like, really? Do you know what I mean? Isn't that's kind of scary? And if you don't know what that I'm talking about, it's the Iranian pager, the Lebanon, blowing up of the pagers all at one time. A batch was sent to Lebanon
from Israel.
And it was ignited. These people were like standing in shops next to their children, next to other people that are quite innocent and yes, they are.
Hezbollah is what they were saying.
They're trying to say, well, it's only them that had it. Do you know what I mean? In their hand at that time. But that is frightening because, like, how do we know that isn't something that is like automatically put in our devices? You know what I mean? And I mean, I don't really want to go into the actual the crisis that is going on over there, but as much as to say that to do that is scary, it's really, really scary.
Well, it's
because
showing
you could easily well put it in anybody's phone, anybody's device, and when you've done something, they can ignite it. Or, I mean, we've got hackers that know how to do these things. So, like, how do we know that's not happening, you know, in regards to people who's got a grudge with somebody, or people who's like gonna assassinate somebody or something? That is really, really not on. That's got to be sorted out in human rights.
Well, we know that Israel does have form for testing
Yeah.
their weapons in these types of ways.
Yeah.
So like even with like the surveillance thing, like all of that you see in our cities that are just given now, all of that was tried and tested in like Palestine and places like that. And there is actually a guy that talks about all of that type of stuff. I can't remember his name now, but he was saying that the cameras have developed. They've actually got them in certain parts of New Orleans now. You know, they've got that AI technology, so it will do the whole like sort of like do you remember Minority Report? Yeah, so it kind of does like that digital imagery, says, and then says, oh, that's a criminal, and then they will say, oh, stop, and then like they can speak to you through the camera and tell you like stop. And then in certain cameras, they can actually shoot at you through the camera. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they can do this stuff. Whether they want to implement it, they will do it as and when they feel. So we've got like the low version of it. Another country, as I said, New Orleans have got the thingy. I think we have got that because in London we have got certain cameras that they did have to publicise.
Well, that's why they can stop somebody in a car.
That's why it was in.
They can say that the camera went into the car.
AMPR
and they say, well,
would you
that guy's not supposed to be
but
in
they'll
that car.
say, would your registration, and then say, oh, well, it's locked to a blah, blah, blah. So that's how they'll say. But I think it is the same facial thing, but they didn't want to tell us then because it hasn't been, you know,
established
it's
or
declassified information, isn't it? So yeah, I think that they use these things like, so with that pager thing, the same way we know now that anything with a camera on, anything with a camera can be looking and be listening. Like they said, no, and we all know. You know what I mean?
From our God knows what our algorithms are going to be after all these conversations.
Oh God, I know they're listening to mine. Sometimes I see choppers coming over. I'm like, oh God, have I said one thing too much?
Like, oh, I'll turn it off. I'll turn on my settings.
I'll turn
it doesn't
my Wi-Fi
work.
off or
Trust
whatever.
me, it doesn't work.
Like if it's got it there, then they can hack into it. Do you know what I mean? And that, like when they'll do these shows like the Snowfalls where it's like CIA involvement, like they'll do these shows however many years later, or they'll do like a Vietnam thing or a 9/11 film, and then they'll tell on themselves in the film. Do you know what I mean? Once it's all thingy, oh yeah, we did actually do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've done that years ago.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because then it's like, oh, nobody really cares anymore. But you know, back when you was actually saying it, or you would have been saying it, like, no, that's an inside job, or no, that's the CIA flooding the streets with drugs and guns, they would say you're a conspiracy theorist and you're a maniac or whatever if you would have said it back then. But now it's just like, oh yeah, of course, you know. So.
And as I say, it's like they probably even said to them in, you know, the Israeli people, like, why do you go and tell them? Why did you go and use that? You know, we didn't want that used until, you know, whenever that we was in some dire straits. But I think the bigger
thing of that Iranian thing is they're trying to push, I know we weren't going to go so political, but that's, I suppose, the point. It is the deep dive. I think they are trying to push Iran into attacking Israel again, so that they've got another excuse to say, well, look, the same way they've done with Hamas, they'll say, look, Hezbollah's attacked us again, and now we need to go and take over thingy, because the whole plan is greater Israel and Iran. There's parts of Syria, there's parts of Jordan, Palestine, obviously, they are all part of the greater Israel plan. So you will see these little things popping off back and forth until it becomes a massive thing like the Palestine thing. So keep watching. Yemen also, they're doing the same thing to Yemen.
Well, see, I mean, like, even Somalia, do you know what I mean? Like, they've got that, you know, that whole war thing going on for years and years and years. And now they've got flooding. It's like, we need to help them.
You weren't helping them before.
Why do you need to help them when you're not helping them in the war?
Humanitarian
do you know what I mean?
People are dying.
What are you gonna help them for when you know, like, they were gonna die anyway type of thing? Because if you're not going over there and stopping the war and stop selling them guns, because places haven't got gun factories and they're getting guns, where are they getting them from?
Like the Haitians that are eating the cats and eating the dogs and eating the dogs and eating the dogs.
Like, there is people that they are today putting him very much in danger with these like by the by type of thing. And let's remember that Donald Trump comes from the Germans. He's got German ancestry, and we all know
about the Germans.
But anyway,
oh gosh, talking to the Germans quickly. Holocaust has to be taught back to Bonnie and Kier. Has to be taught because it's critical to our children's. It's critical to our children's identity that the Nazi Holocaust is taught in schools. So yeah, imagine not any other Holocaust, but all the rest of the Holocausts that ever happened, all the other genocides that ever happened or continuing to happen. Just that one needs to be taught to help every British child's identity.
But I think that they probably need to actually teach that because
I think that's the lobby money. Money is coming
how
in.
Dangerous people can get, because like we've got to remember that they never helped the British and all them never helped the Jews until it became that Hitler decided that he was going to go into Europe and start getting England, and England came into it, and then the US helped England. Do you know what I mean? So it's not that they were concerned about what's happening to the Jews. No, they were concerned about what was going to happen to them. The same way they weren't concerned about slavery. They were concerned about the finance that slavery.
Then suddenly we need to abort this.
You know what I mean? So
abort mission.
There's always an underlining factor when it comes to these things.
So we knew it was coming. Literally, we knew it was coming.
No way.
But yeah, so
that's our postscript to My Time to Die.
Postscript, like it. PS.
Yeah, that's PS.
So until next week.
You can comment on this one if you want to. She's not here.
Oh god. Comment if you must. That must be the
like and subscribe.
But like and subscribe. Please do. Thank you.